Hi, thanks for watching us at Tax Talk UK. We're going to have a look at what is VAT. Before we do, if I could just ask you to take a second to please subscribe to our channel and turn on all the notifications. That way you will be notified of new content and will be easily able to refer back to this content should you need to do so. Thank you. On to VAT, value added tax. It is a tax that people pay when they buy goods or services. A percentage, known as the rate of VAT, is added to the cost that you pay. The standard rate of VAT is currently 20%, and around about half of the goods and services that most households buy, or the average households buy, should I say, are subject to VAT at the standard rate. There are other rates and also exemptions that apply. So if you're actually registered for VAT, you should be sure to understand these and which apply to your goods or services that you're selling. As well, of course, as understanding when to apply them. A business must register for VAT once they reach the VAT threshold, but below that, a business can register voluntarily if they choose so, and that will be assessed differently for your individual business. In terms of the VAT threshold, this relates to your turnover, so the amount that you actually take from your customers or clients, and that currently in this current tax year is 85,000 in a 12-month rolling calendar period. So that means that each month, if you're close to the threshold, you must monitor and check actually what was your turnover in the last 12 months before the month that we're in now, not the last financial year or the last tax year, the last preceding 12 months. In terms of voluntary registration, as I mentioned earlier, this will be entirely down to your own business, your client and customer base, whether they're predominantly VAT registered or not, as well as your business activities, and whether the perception as a VAT registered organisation would help your potential customer perception of your business, and would sometimes be why someone chooses to register voluntarily. And then in terms of your individual client or customer base, again, there's lots of more complex things to look at. But for example, if you're serving predominantly other VAT registered businesses, they will be able to claim back the VAT that they pay to you. So they won't, it will only affect their cash flow. So they won't be unduly alarmed by you being VAT registered, because that won't increase their cost. Of course, if you're selling predominantly to individuals and households, then effectively their cost is increased by 20%. So it may be that your market won't be able to take that, and therefore you may end up having to, in effect, reduce your net cost and therefore the profitability. So again, it's all about thinking about the actual impacts of VAT registration if you're under the threshold. As we talked about earlier, if you have exceeded that threshold, you have no choice, that you must register for VAT. But these are just some ideas to consider. And if you're not sure whether VAT registration is correct for you, if you're under the threshold, or if you are above the threshold and you don't really understand, then I would strongly suggest that you get some professional advice and some help with managing it, just to make sure that it's all done correctly, because errors in your VAT will accumulate over time, and that can be costly by the time that it's picked up. So much better to have the peace of mind of knowing that it's all done correctly. So when we talk about the cost of goods or services without the VAT, we're talking about the net cost, and we would call this VAT exclusive or exclusive of VAT. And when we're talking about the total cost that you pay, we're talking about the gross cost, and this is also referred to as VAT inclusive or inclusive of VAT. So, of course, if you are a VAT registered business and you're buying goods or services for your business, it's important to understand the difference between the net and the gross, or the inclusive or the VAT exclusive cost, to understand how much it's actually going to cost your business, and also the impact on your cash flow in terms of how much you're having to pay out now, even if you can reclaim the VAT back. If your business isn't registered for VAT, then you don't charge any VAT to your customers or clients. And also you don't reclaim anything back that you pay out to your suppliers or your business service providers. The expenditure that you pay, inclusive of VAT, if you're not VAT registered, is the full cost to the business, because you're not able to reclaim. So this is something that people don't always think about when they're considering whether to voluntarily register for VAT, is that if you are not VAT registered and you have the full cost is eligible against tax, so it's not quite 20% in the difference between what you can claim. That can be a little bit confusing for people. And similarly, if you are providing materials, say for example, if you were a builder, then it's only really your labour costs that are going to be affected by whether you're registered for VAT or not, and any markup on the materials, because even if you're not registered for VAT, the chances are that your suppliers will be, so therefore your customers will already be paying VAT on their on the materials element, because you won't be able to reclaim it if you're not registered for VAT, so therefore they will still be paying that. So if you are registered for VAT, you're going to add VAT at the relevant rate for the product or service that you're providing onto the net cost for your customers. But that VAT element isn't going to form part of your income, because effectively that VAT that you collect is essentially going to be paid back to HMRC. You're simply collecting the tax really on their behalf. So for this reason, it doesn't form part of your income. That would just still be the net part of your sale. And that works the same for your expenditure. Only the net cost of the expenditure is going to be an allowable expense, because the VAT element you're going to reclaim, and HMRC are going to in effect give you that VAT that you've paid back. So at regular intervals, quite commonly quarterly, i.e. every 3 months, you're going to submit a VAT return to HMRC, and this is where you tell them the total that you've collected in VAT on all of your sales, and therefore what you need to pay to them. And at the same time, you're going to tell them the total of the VAT that you've paid out to your suppliers or your service providers, and therefore how much they have to repay you back. And then rather than paying them the sales VAT and then repaying your purchase VAT, you're just going to pay to them the net difference. Or there might be occasions where the amount that you've paid out on VAT is actually higher than what you've collected on sales, and in these instances HMRC will pay the difference back to you. So very soon, most VAT registered businesses will need to be doing a Making Tax Digital, which we explore in a different video in more detail, and therefore will likely be using MTD, Making Tax Digital software to record the records. And this software will generate your VAT return for you, although you should, of course, be reviewing the reports before you submit, to check that you understand exactly what is being reported and that the figures are accurate in terms of the VAT that you've collected from your customers and that you've paid out to your suppliers, and therefore that the VAT that you need to pay or be refunded is actually accurate. If you need to register for VAT or you decide to do so voluntarily, there are various schemes aimed at certain sectors or businesses, small businesses or certain sectors or by size, that are designed to simplify the VAT system. So it is worth having a look at those on HMRC website just to assess whether any of them would help you simplify your business operations in regard to VAT, whilst of course ensuring that your VAT reported is accurate. And again, if you're going to register, regardless of whether you have to or whether it's voluntarily, it is important that you do understand at least the basic workings of VAT, the different rates and when you must apply them. And obviously fundamentally you must understand the rates that apply to the products and services that you're selling. When you're registered for VAT and in terms of charging VAT to your customers or clients and reclaiming the VAT that you've paid to your suppliers, it's really important that you have a good understanding of the paperwork that's required, what you must keep, how long you must keep it for, and a fundamental aspect of that is understanding what a VAT invoice is, what information must be included on a VAT invoice. Both there's the times when you would be required to provide that to your own customers, and also in terms of what paperwork you are required to hold in order to reclaim VAT that you have paid out. So HMRC issue a series of what they call VAT notices, which will have the most up-to-date information and cover pretty much any aspect of VAT registration that you would need to know about or want to know about. There's the overall VAT notice 700 is what anybody that's VAT registered or really has any doings with VAT should read and understand, just to ensure that you have a good understanding of the basics at least. And then from there you can look at actually in terms of your own business operations, what specific aspects might you need to know more detailed information on. So your own products or services, if there's anything particular about those, you should check that there's no VAT notice. And if there is relative to that, to ensure that you read that. And as I say, as I mentioned earlier, if you get things wrong with your VAT, either charging the wrong amount or the wrong rate, reclaiming things incorrectly that you shouldn't, then over time these will accumulate. So it's really fundamentally important that you understand at least the basics of VAT, you understand in detail the rates and how that affects your own business operations, and that you get your VAT returns and your VAT records accurate right from the start. If you start off with them incorrect, then you just will always be catching up. So get them right from the start. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're not confident with what you're doing, then I would advise you to get some professional advice and some help if necessary. Well, good luck and thank you very much for watching. As I mentioned, please do remember to subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Goodbye.